I drove this beautiful truck right off this bridge.
No way.
And all of the friendliness that I received is what inspired me to start PuraCars. It's slow, man. I am counting the days until my non-compete is over.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the beLine. Excited to be here with Dan Namerow. There's so much I want to talk about with Dan. His experience, his exit from electrical business and what he's doing now. So excited to have you on, Dan. I'm sure all of our listeners would love to hear a little bit more about yourself and what you have going on. But before we get into that, tell us about Dan and kind of a little bit about your electrical background and kind of energize us.
Yeah, sure. Love the pun. So needless to say, I'm actually writing a book right now, not to self-promote. It's called The Soul of a Business, and
Please self-promote. That's awesome.
My journey is like fresh in my mind. So, I started working for my father. You know my father from
Yes.
BNI. Working for my father was certainly a challenge. I then went into teaching electrical theory and contracting, and once again, influenced by my father's words, "Those who can't do, teach." And I was like, "You want to know something? This is ridiculous already. I'm gonna start a business." So after 6 years of teaching, I kind of fell into it. Oddly enough, I was taking a month-long sabbatical, wherein my second child was being born, and I wanted to spend time and bond with her and my wife. And I spent very little time doing that. I had the opportunity to do electrical work, and long story short, Farryn Electric was born. And to kind of wrap it up into a nice little package, we were open as a business, the business I owned, for 8 years.
Nice.
Before we were approached by venture capitalists and eventually exited with almost 12 times EBITDA, which is really unheard of for
awesome.
a business
12
like mine.
times.
Almost 12 times, yes.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
I appreciate that.
That's really cool. Wait, tell me,
hopefully,
before we jump into that, tell me, obviously, you don't hear a lot of electricians or electrical contractors that have been able or had the ability to teach. You're teaching all these other electricians, whether they're union, non-union, own their company, not own a company, how to do the actual work. That's awesome. Tell me about the fulfillment there, or what did you personally get out of that?
I love teaching. I mean, from a kind of a selfish standpoint, it is so fulfilling when you just get that aha moment from these students. And kind of like myself, not a lot of people back then got into the electrical field because they wanted to. It was more like they had to. They weren't necessarily cut out for college, or maybe they went to a vocational school when they were in their high school years. So the students that I got, they're kind of rough around the edges, and a lot of times, they had family issues and things like this. So this was a safe space for them. So
Nice.
to not only be able to act as a counselor, for lack of a better term, but also to teach them the tools that they need to go out and not just make a living, but make a really good living, was unbelievably fulfilling. And I still like to teach to this day.
Well, and also that had to set you up when you started the business to start to teach your apprentices and to teach the people that work for you. It gave you the playbook, it gave you the SOP.
It gave me the playbook, but not only did it give me the playbook, but I encourage any new electrician who's worth their salt in this business to teach at least part-time, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself, just imagine managing a baseball team.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you have access to all of the best players, right? Even if they're not in your class, but in someone else's class, you have access to them. You make personal connections with them, and when they're ready, they come and work for you. And that's exactly what I did, and exactly what happened. So I would say the first 3 or 4 people that I hired were former students of mine.
That's awesome. And I honestly couldn't agree with you more. I currently do adjunct professor at a local state college. And selfishly, right? It's making me be better on my information, making me have the better trends so that I could teach the next generation what the latest tips are, what the latest trends are, and make sure they're ready for the workforce, similar to what you did with teaching the electricians. And to your point, we've hired several of those people that I have adjunct professor taught to. So it was kind of cool.
It absolutely 100% keeps you sharp. And one of the things I talk about in my book is that you can be a great business owner, you can be a great electrician, or whatever it is you might do. But you had touched on orders of operations and SOPs, and you can write the greatest order of operations anyone could ever come up with. But if you aren't capable of teaching them, if you aren't capable of putting those thoughts into words, both on paper and directly through conversation to your employees, it tends to fall on deaf ears. If you can't deliver that message with the same gusto that you feel about it, like I said, it's not as effective as when you have a passion for teaching them exactly it is what you're trying to get them to do.
For sure. No, I absolutely agree with you there. Like early on in Farryn, right? You just got done teaching, you started electrical business, like you have a ton of family experience there from owning businesses in general. What did you do first from a marketing standpoint? Like an early electrician's watching our podcast here, the beLine, like what's something like early you did on that you did really well? And maybe what's something that like, hey, if I did this over again, right? I know that I could be better at this one thing that I now know, you know what I mean? Like having gone through it.
I think that, well, the first thing we did, and once again, I hate to keep giving him credit, but it's something that I learned from my father, is we put the boots on the ground. We printed our own flyers and we walked door to door, not with the intent of just stuffing a flyer in somebody's door, but to shake the hands of the people that we were hoping to acquire as clients. And that was an unbelievably groundbreaking thing for me. It was an unbelievably rewarding thing for me.
Sure. Like guerrilla type marketing, not necessarily canvassing, but like going into the community, learning about the community, and hey, Farryn's here and we're a part of that community.
Right. And that's something that can be done very, very inexpensively. On the opposite side of things, and I'm sure you remember this, one of the greatest things, one of the best things I ever did that was probably the hardest way of marketing, because it's very hard to qualify how successful you are at it, was radio campaigns. I'm a little bit conceited. I love to hear my own voice. I wrote my own commercials. You remember Dina. I still talk to her and her unbelievable husband, and she got me into this thing. It was unbelievably addictive. I would say that where we possibly got tripped up, and by the way, I was very, very fortunate, wherein I can't really come up with a means of marketing that we failed at per se.
For sure.
I will say that social media marketing is something that I have a lot of opinions on. And so we had to walk a fine line. And what I mean by that is, with social media marketing, and I'm not going to mention any names, but you get these really militaristic, we're going to 10x your net worth, these crazy funnels, so on and so forth. Look at the mansion I have. Look at this jet that I just rented for a half an hour. This is all BS, man. I'm sorry, but and by the way, people like me, as smart as I think that I am, we fall for it because we're constantly trying to learn. We're constantly trying to grow, so on and so forth.
Yeah, what's better?
Absolutely.
What's out there? What's on the other side?
You get sucked down this funnel, and before you know it, you're just being bombarded. So I've had that happen to me. Another place where I think I tripped up was not in what I did, but in the timing of it. And that is that I wish I had known about and adopted appreciation marketing earlier on in my career as the owner of Farryn Electric, because to me, it's by far one of the most valuable avenues for marketing your business. Number one, and number two, it warms my heart, and I'm really all about, just like you, all about community, serving the community that I work in. And what better way to do that than sponsoring certain sports teams
Sure.
and being out in that community and sponsoring community days, so on and so forth. But we didn't do that until the end of Farryn Electric. And oddly enough, one of your former guests, Corey Rutter, is the one who educated me on the importance of appreciation marketing and really pushing me towards it. So
yeah, Corey's awesome, and he does a ton of that in the market from his standpoint. But it's so important, right, to show that you're local and that you give back to the community, and that it's a grassroots type marketing, and you can do it if you're in 0 to $1 million in revenue or $5 to $10 million plus in revenue. Like, it just gets you more ingrained in the community. And what we see more and more is, how are you leveraging that, right? Like, do you put on the side of your truck, right, that I'm a sponsor of this little league? Or do you put on the side of your lawn signs that, like, hey, we're in this high school. So it's like, hey, if we're working within this high school zone, use this lawn sign, because it shows that we're proud partners of that local high school or that local town. And it just further ingrains it a little bit more. So it's like grassroots 2.0, but there's so much that can be done within that yes, appreciation marketing is amazing.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And there's a bit of a, I'll go back to a quote or something that my daughter said to me. And she said, Dad, if you're giving and expecting something in return, is it really charity? Is it really
Sure.
appreciation marketing? And that kind of blew me away that, at whatever, 14 years old, she was kind of questioning,
She's got that entrepreneur spirit from the family roots.
She absolutely does, brother. She absolutely
That's cool.
does. So in that regard, when you had mentioned the idea of us, letting people know that we sponsor this or we sponsor that, I purposely did none of that. And the reason why is this, and this actually goes back to social media marketing as well, because you're really marketing yourself. You're marketing your business without marketing your business. And the way I look at things is marketing. That absolutely, you're marketing yourself. My wife and myself, we became a part of the community by doing two things and two things only. And I had an SOP about this. We were allowed to do one of two things: ask for help or offer help. And that's it. And that makes you human. Eventually, people are going to connect my name with the business name. It's going to happen.
Sure.
Through these community events. It's going to happen. So in my humble opinion, there really isn't a need to take that second step. That second step is going to come naturally. You just kind of have to wait until to the point that my daughter said, if you're expecting something in return, I had to turn to him and say, yes, and with all due respect, that I am expecting something in return. I think the difference between, being charitable and putting the business money into community events and community teams and so on and so forth is you leave it there. You have the patience for it to come back around to you when these folks are ready. And that's
Sure.
what makes it effective.
Well, talk about that two-step there, right? Like, you had this massive, almost 12x exit, right, from this company in Pennsylvania to now you're building this mechanic network in Costa Rica. Like, what happened in between there? Like how did this massive exit and where did PuraCars come from?
I'll give you some good content.
Nice.
So I had something called an earn out. So we made it, that almost 12x. I would say 95% of it was made up front on the deal.
Very cool. And that's so important for anyone listening that is interested in selling their business. Like, the amount of money you get in the beginning and up front is so important, because the amount of money on the back end, it's like flip a coin, because you may or may not get it.
Not only you may or may not get it, but are you going to enjoy yourself? Are you going to have the same fulfillment working for the company that acquired yours as you did when you were working for yourself? And in my case,
same passion, same commitment, same dedication.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen.
I hate to say it, we know someone else in common, and who did sell his business a week prior to me, and because I talked to him, it sounds like he mated with he connected with the right kind of company, and that was probably my biggest mistake. So long story short, I had my earn out and I'm supposed to go to work for this company for 2 years. I lasted a year. It was absolute hell to me. My book of 4,000 clients was reduced down to less than 10%. That's the statistic that came not from me and my studies and fact finding. That came from somebody inside that company who no longer works there, because I think she kind of has the same ethics that I do. But needless to say, that year was spent looking for a way out, and not just a way out of my current situation or what was my current situation, but just a way out of Havertown, man. I lived there for, 44 years of my life, and there's this whole entire other world. I wanted to have an adventure. We finally were able to afford to do something like that. And so that whole year that I was working for this other company was spent researching from Portugal to Mexico.
Portugal's beautiful. Have you been?
It's oh my God, it's gorgeous. I have not been, but I probably know just as much about it as the people that have been.
It's definitely like the top of that bucket list for sure.
But we settled on Costa Rica, and so I brought my beautiful wife and my 3 daughters here. We purchased our home without ever setting foot in this country. That was kind of the state of mind that I was in. So if there's any lesson that I can give to anyone who is, and this is not just in the trades, but anyone who is, thinking about selling their business, please do your homework, not just on the minutiae of the APA or the deal that you're signing, but the company that you're going to work for. It's absolutely paramount.
It's a two-way marriage.
Amen.
Tell me about PuraCars.
That's another funny. So PuraCars came about for 2 reasons. Number one, you would be stunned by the number of expats that are in this country. You bump into more expats, more people with a story, right? So that's why people come here. They all have a story. We all have a story.
For sure.
We're all trying to, for lack of a better term, escape something or find something new. So you can go from, we were talking about this last week, you can literally go from a beach, one of the most gorgeous beaches you'll ever see. I literally live within 10 minutes of 7 beaches. Okay?
Nice.
I live within walking distance of 5. I can drive 2.5 hours and be in the rainforest. So the problem is that the infrastructure here is such that when you're on that drive, you're really out in the middle of nowhere. And so where in the United States, you might feel a bit of trepidation knocking on a farmer's door, and he might be coming to the door with his favorite rifle. That's not the way it is here. There's a saying in Costa Rica. It's called Pura Vida, the poor life. Everyone here helps one another.
That's awesome.
But the main way that PuraCars started was I purchased my first love after my family. And it's not a vehicle that can be had in the United States. Long story short, we have 2 seasons here. We have the dry season.
You still have it? Is it up here?
It is. I don't have it, and it is not up there. Where it is in someone else's hands, because during the rainy season, a road was flooded, and I could not make out where there was a bridge. And I drove this beautiful truck right off this bridge.
No way.
Yes. Came out of my seatbelt, hit the right side of my head, not on the passenger side window. And 2 Costa Ricans, I blacked out. 2 Costa Ricans had to pull me out of that truck. They saved my life. Thank God my family wasn't with me. And between the 2 Costa Ricans who came and helped me, to the friend who came and kind of, for lack of a better term, held my hand while I was in a panic.
Sure.
To the mechanic that arranged for my truck to be towed back to his shop. To the insurance agent who then helped hold my hand as I navigated the insurance processes that are down here, which are nothing like the United States. And all of the friendliness and the love that I received from that tragic accident is what inspired me to start PuraCars, because I knew that if there was a few really good tow trucks, if there was a few really good mechanics and friends, what we call SOS drivers. So in other words, what we would refer to essentially as a AAA type of thing back in the United States. If that all existed in 1 square mile, then I knew there had to be more in this country, let alone Latin America. And so that was my inspiration and my partner's inspiration for starting PuraCars.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So operating this international app obviously probably comes with some hurdles.
Oh, yeah.
And just building this app. And so you went from a door to door, right? Knocking on doors. Hey, we do electrical work. To now you're doing this international app that has multiple languages and business regulations and all that stuff. So
it's crazy.
Just different, much different.
Well,
now is this in the app store?
That's a good question. It was in the app store. It absolutely was. And we had to pivot, right? This is a huge part of being a business owner, is pivoting.
Yeah.
So it was in both the Apple store as well as the Android store. Here's the problem, though, is that when somebody breaks down, no one wants to download a stinking application to get the help they need. So we pivoted from a traditional application, you probably know more about this than I do, to a web-based application, wherein these people don't need to download an app. They don't even necessarily need to sign up to the application to receive the help they need as quickly as they possibly can.
Right. How do we make things convenient for customers, for consumers today's? And that's one thing is, hey, just jump real quick on the web versus going to the app store, downloading it and finding it.
Indeed.
Yeah, no,
and this
great.
is something that's brand new to these people. They don't have anything like this right now. Nothing like it at all.
That's cool.
And that's probably the hardest part. So you had mentioned the idea that I was in a business.
No, I thought Dan Namerow, this guy that sold for so much money and moved to Costa Rica with his family, was retired and sitting on the beach every day. Here you are making all this new business.
Lasted about 3 months. About 3 months. Yeah. So we don't have one web-based application. We have 3 web-based applications under.
That's awesome.
Some days, yes.
It's interesting because people say when you sell, right, first is the money, second is financial freedom. So now you have all this financial freedom. But the third for every single person you ever talk to is purpose. What is my purpose and how do I find that purpose? And ultimately you found purpose through building entrepreneurship and building other businesses and writing the book, which I would definitely want to get back into.
Yeah. Writing the book. I'm doing so many things. We have a partner and I have 33,000 square meters, which equates to roughly, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, about 5 acres of beachfront property in a little town called Playa Grande. So we're developing 10 homes there. But
and you're fluent in Spanish, obviously you had to be.
I'm not. I'm getting there. I'm
getting there. ¿Tú hablas español, señor?
Mi español es poco a poco. Little by little, right?
Poquito,
so needless to say, and I know I'm all over the place, but I am coming full circle, and maybe we need to get to this towards the end of the meeting. But one piece of advice that I could give to myself 3 years ago is, just because you have money, just because you found this new freedom, you really ought to think about what it is that made you happy about the business that you sold. And at least try to get into a business that emulates some of the characteristics of that business that you sold. When I was an electrician, here's the reason why I loved it. I dropped out of 2 colleges. This was a punishment for me, a 27-year-long punishment. And the reason why I succeeded in it is because, a lot with it's the thing that I feel like there's the same thing kind of like with creating a website and doing the marketing for that website.
Sure.
You get to see what you've built occur on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
That doesn't happen.
Constant reality check every day.
Absolutely. But with a startup, it's slow, man. With developing land in Costa Rica, it's slow. So I am counting the days until my non-compete is over, so I can get back not only into electrical work, and I'm doing some of it here to keep myself sane. We started an electrical company here as well, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. But there's no doubt in my mind that we will be getting the band back together. for sure, for lack of a better term.
That's awesome. So, and that was one of my questions I wanted to ask is just like, where is Dan Namerow's ecosystem headed next? Like what does it look like, and
so
what's lined up?
Through orders of operations and the trust that I have with the people that work for me in PuraCars, I feel very good, and also because it is a slow moving thing, right? It's a behavior that we have to establish, not only in this country but in all of Latin America. The long story short is I miss home. I miss my family. I miss the electrical business, and so where we're going next, more likely than not, is maybe not physically, but I will be starting an electrical company as quickly as I possibly can in the area that I served prior, and with the people that I built the business with. So I'm very,
dude, that's
very
awesome.
excited.
That's exciting. So you heard it here first, right? Dan
You heard it here
Namerow's
first,
back in the
brother.
electrical business.
I'm coming back to town.
Absolutely.
I'm coming back to town for sure.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, it is. It's just more fulfilling. And these other businesses that are so slow moving, you know, when you take the attitude that I'm going to sit here and every day and either expect a change, expect progression, or try to force it, you're only going to become depressed. You're only going to become sullen, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
When you can recognize that both of those businesses are relatively, easy to operate without you having to have your hands on that business on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis, it becomes, really easy to go back to what it is that made you happy in the first place.
And the second round is you've learned from what you did the first time, so it just makes it that much better going into it.
Indeed. And as I approach 50, it doesn't. I'll tell you what, I more likely than not, almost positive, I probably never ever sell again unless it was to my employees.
Awesome. So, tell me where can we find the book?
The book is still being written. Luckily for myself, my uncle is an author and has a literary agent, and they've reviewed the book, and they keep pushing me to not self-publish, which is kind of a scary situation. But I should be done this book in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we can certainly, or should certainly, start by self-publishing on Amazon, and through the different channels, LinkedIn, social media, so on and so forth. I'm sure you'll know.
Well, yeah, let us know. We'll put it out to the podcast community and let them know that it's available once it's there.
I appreciate it.
When can we expect you back in the area?
That's a good question. That depends on a few things. Number one, I have a daughter who, for the first time in my life, we're going to go tour schools, tour colleges in California in 2 weeks.
See?
I want her to finish up her high school years at the same school she started. So more likely than not,
before next school year.
No more than a year.
Yeah, nice.
By
okay,
next
cool.
summer. Absolutely.
I know we're coming up on time here. Anything else you want to share with us and share with the beLine community?
Just remember this, that you can teach yourself all day long about orders of operations and exit strategies and how to read a balance sheet and know the meaning of what a current ratio the current ratio is. But if you're not addressing what I refer to as the soul of your business, which is the name of my book, if you are not recognizing, writing down, and then teaching to your employees certain things like how to walk the fine line between friendship and business, on not giving excuses like it is what it is, and rather adopting the idea that it is, or life is what we make of it.
Sure.
Then, in my humble opinion, you may be successful on paper, but the soul of your business will never shine bright like it did with Farryn Electric or B-Marketing, for that.
Yeah, definitely. Understanding what your why is. I saw something the other day on I guess it was a whiteboard at somewhere I was, and it said, if your glass is half full, get an effing smaller glass. That's always great.
It's awesome. And for business owners like us, it's kind of the life you lead, right?
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Roll up your
Well,
sleeves,
it's good
get dirty,
seeing you,
let's
brother.
go. It was great seeing you. I can't wait to see you back, and obviously excited to hear the name announcement at some point, and obviously the book release. So definitely keep us informed. But heck yeah, excited to have you back in the industry.
You'll be one of the first people to get the first edition, brother.
That's awesome. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.